This is not a story from a movie. This is not a tale written by a poet. This is the truth that changed the world forever. 1400 years ago, in the silent desert of Arabia, a child was born, with no father to hold him, no wealth to protect him, no crown upon his head. But his name was destined to shine across every land, every heart, every soul. He is the greatest man in the world. A man who had no army, no palace, no treasure. And yet, his words moved mountains, and his mercy touched the skies. His name was Muhammad. The world he was born into was dark. People worshipped idols made of stone. The poor were crushed, the weak were ignored, and truth had no voice. But this child would grow up to bring light where there was darkness, mercy where there was hate, and peace where there was pain. He didn't just change his city, he changed the destiny of mankind. And his story is not just a story from the past. It is a message for every heart. In every time, he was still a child, an orphan, walking alone through the streets of Mecca. No parents, no home of luxury, but a heart so pure that even the heavens smiled upon him. People watched him grow. They saw how he spoke, how he walked, how he treated the poor, the slaves, the strangers. He never shouted, never lied, never hurt anyone. And soon, the people began to whisper his name. Al-Amin, the trustworthy, the honest one. He was different. In a world full of greed, he was the voice of truth. In a place of arrogance, he walked with humility. When others cheated, he stayed fair. When others hated, he forgave. When others forgot the poor, he shared his food. He was young, but his eyes carried the wisdom of 1,000 years. One day, when people fought over who would place the sacred stone in the Kaaba, they couldn't agree. Every tribe wanted the honor. And then, someone said, "Let Muhammad decide." When he arrived, silence filled the air. He smiled, placed his cloak on the ground, set the stone in the middle, and asked every tribe to hold one corner, together. And like that, the fight ended. Peace returned. And once again, the young man of mercy became the man of unity. He didn't speak much, but when he did, every word touched hearts like rain on dry land. It was the year when the world was asleep in darkness, greed, and pride. But one night, something changed forever. In a small cave called Hira, far from the noise of the world, the greatest man in the world sat alone, in silence. His name was Muhammad, peace be upon him. He often came here to think, to seek truth, to find light in a world filled with darkness. And on that night, the light came to him. The angel Gabriel appeared and said, "Read." The prophet's heart trembled. He replied, "I cannot read." The angel held him again, saying, "Read, in the name of your Lord who created." And at that moment, the world changed. From that small cave, came words that would echo across centuries. Words that would heal hearts, awaken souls, and bring humanity out of darkness into light. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had received his first revelation. And from that day, he was no longer just a man. He was the messenger of God, the mercy to all worlds. Days passed after that night in the cave. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was no longer the same. His heart carried a light, a message, a truth from the Lord of the worlds. He went home, trembling, and said to his beloved wife, Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, "Cover me, cover me." She held him gently, comforting him as he told her everything. And with faith pure as gold, she said, "By Allah, he will never disgrace you. You help the poor, you care for the orphan, you speak the truth." Those words gave him strength. strength to rise again, to stand firm, and to begin his mission. Soon after, the revelation came again. O you who covers himself, arise and warn. It was time. The greatest man in the world now had the greatest duty, to call his people towards one God, towards peace, justice, and mercy. But not everyone would listen. Some hearts would melt in faith, and some would turn cold with anger, because truth always shakes falsehood. The city of Mecca stood proud, its people lost in idols, gold, and pride. But now, a new voice began to rise, a voice of truth, a voice of peace. It was the voice of the greatest man in the world, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He climbed a hill called Safa and called out loudly, O people of Mecca, come near. One by one, they gathered. Curious faces, doubtful eyes. He looked at them, his family, his tribe, his people, and said, If I told you there is an army behind this mountain, would you believe me? They said, Yes, you are the truthful one. We have never heard you lie. And then, he said the words that changed everything. Then no, there is no God but Allah, and I am his messenger. The crowd went silent. Some hearts trembled with truth, but others burned with anger. Abu Lahab, his own uncle, shouted, May you perish. Did you gather us for this? And from that day, the trials began. The Prophet, peace be upon him, faced insult, rejection, and pain, but never hate in return. He responded only with patience, mercy, and prayer. Because he was not here for revenge. He was here for love. For the love of humanity. The days that followed were not easy. The people of Mecca began to mock the Prophet, peace be upon him. They called him a liar, a magician, a madman. But he never replied with anger, only with truth and calm words. He walked the streets where children threw stones. He passed through the markets where people whispered and laughed. But he only said, O my people, say la ilaha illallah, there is no God but Allah, and you will succeed. Slowly, hearts began to awaken. The first to believe were few. Khadija, his loyal wife. Abu Bakr, his closest friend. Ali, the young cousin who slept near him. And Bilal, the slave who would cry, Ahad, Ahad, one God, one God, as he was tortured under the burning desert sun. But even in pain, their faith only grew stronger. Because truth cannot be crushed, and light cannot be hidden. The Prophet, peace be upon him, would look at them, tired, wounded, but smiling, and say gently, Be patient, for paradise is waiting. He knew that one day, the same land that threw stones at him would echo with the call of prayer. Allahu Akbar. God is the greatest. Years passed, and the trials only grew harder. The people of Mecca had closed their hearts. They mocked, insulted, and even threw stones at those who believed. But the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the greatest man in the world, never gave up. One day, he decided to travel to a nearby city, Taif. He walked for miles under the burning sun, with hope in his heart. He wanted only one thing, that people might listen, understand, and believe. But when he reached Taif, they did not welcome him. They laughed at him, chased him, and threw stones until his blessed feet bled. He ran, hurt and exhausted, until he reached a garden. There, under a small tree, he raised his hands and prayed. O Allah, to you I complain of my weakness, my lack of strength, and the people's disrespect. If you are not angry with me, then I do not care. For your mercy is greater for me than anything else. Tears fell from his eyes, not because of pain, but because his heart was filled with love and patience. Even when the world rejected him, he still prayed for them, for the guidance, for their peace. And that night, The skies watched in silence, as the most beloved man on earth cried, not for himself, but for humanity. The days were heavy, hearts were tired. After all the pain in Taif, the loss of his beloved wife Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, and his uncle Abu Talib, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, felt deep sorrow. The world had turned away, but the heavens were about to open for him. One blessed night, as he rested near the Kaaba, the angel Gabriel, came to him, with a white creature, faster than any horse, called Barak. And thus began the night journey, Isra and Miraj. He was taken from Mecca to Jerusalem, to Masjid interested in the Prophet Muhammad's Miraj. If your heart holds love for the Prophet, PBUH, watch the next part. And subscribe.